What's going on? It's your host, Zach Schumaker, and today I'm being joined by an All-ACC second team selection from last season. He had debatably the biggest breakout in the entire country before he signed to enter his name in the 2021 NBA draft. Well, he's decided to come back now for another year of college basketball and enters the season as one of the favorites to win the ACC Player of the Year. And that's Virginia Tech star Keve Aluma. We'll kind of walk us through this because you just finished up a breakout season for you last year. You went to the NBA draft process a little bit, got to hear some feedback, going to some of the top prospects, and you're now coming back to Virginia Tech. Take us to how you're feeling, though, just getting ready for this upcoming season.
Well, yeah, definitely. I'm excited. We got a lot of good players. Even the freshmen, there's no one who will not come in and be able to compete for minutes. So I'm excited for this next season, and I think we'll be pretty good.
Absolutely. We're going to get a lot more into Virginia Tech stuff and all that in a little bit, but I want fans to get to know your story and really how you became the guy you are today. So we had all the way back. You're originally from Maryland. Take us through what it was like growing up out there.
Well, I was a soccer guy, so that was my thing growing up. I started playing basketball my freshman year of high school. Wasn't super good. I wasn't really. I got like all my offers my junior year, and so Wofford was probably the best basketball to academic, like that ratio. So that was a relatively simple choice. And Coach Young, Coach Young has changed my perception of basketball. So, yeah, Wofford. And then obviously he left and got this opportunity. And there was, I forget how it all happened, but there was a opportunity for me to come. And you don't pass up that opportunity. So redshirted. And then I had this past year and I'm here, I guess.
Now, when you talk about just growing up out there in Maryland, like you said, you weren't always a basketball guy. You grew up playing soccer. So take us to that, though. Like, what allowed you to fall in love with soccer, and why was that the sport you pursued?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not really sure how I started playing. I started playing when I was like 3 or 4 in like my church league. I think that was just the sport that my mom knew the best. So I just started playing that. And then I had my best friend growing up his dad was a big soccer guy. So that was kind of how that started.
Now, I know you also grew up in a basketball family. Your dad played with the Kings. He also was with the Globetrotters. So was that something that he kind of inspired you to start playing when you got to high school? Did he always kind of want you to play basketball, or did he have any kind of influence even in you in terms of basketball?
Well, actually, me and him were not super close. So he didn't influence me a whole bunch. When I started playing, he did reach out and like we talked a little bit there, but we didn't have a super close relationship.
Now, you talk about just overall soccer for you. I know some guys that haven't always played basketball and play other ones. Sometimes the reason they switch over to basketball is because of a growth spurt. Have you always been a tall guy? I know you're 6'9" around that now. Like, do you kind of have a big growth spurt come high school, or where were you height wise when you were playing soccer?
I think I was always pretty much taller than everyone. I did play up because like my height, so I could play up. So that was kind of what I did to make it a little bit more like I wasn't just the tallest 6th grader. That was kind of the main thing, playing up.
Absolutely. We'll go through your high school career a little bit. You obviously started, like you said, just started really taking basketball serious and kind of playing it come your high school year. So if someone would have told you that you're eventually going to become a guy that plays Division I basketball and even has a shot at playing in the NBA someday, was that ever something that could have crossed your mind? You ever could have even comprehended coming into high school?
Definitely not. I was not a confident basketball player. I didn't really understand it. I still don't really know if I understand fouls and stuff like that. Sometimes I get confused, but no, seeing where I started to now, it can be a little shocking. But the hard work and the coaches who push me every day, it kind of seems like it's where I should be.
You even just look at your career path, you look at recruiting aspect, like you didn't come out a ranked player, a lot of stars, had a few different offers, but nothing like too big. Now you're a guy that's going to head into your next season as a guy, some people say could obviously be an ACC Player of the Year type candidate, probably going to be all ACC first team at least, and could be an NBA draft pick next year. Like, does that even like cross your mind? Is that how do you kind of comprehend that when you think about that?
Um, I don't know if you can think about that too much. I think I'm going to focus on Virginia Tech and the team and just try and go and win. And I think if we do what we're supposed to do as a team, then things for me after will go how they're supposed to. So.
Absolutely. Well, let's head to your high school career because you decided to stay at one school all 4 years. Take us a decision like why is Decatur the school you want to go to, and why is that ultimately the program that you decided to stay at for 4 years?
Well, my freshman year, the basketball coach there, he was the one who kind of told me to play and told me to come to the tryouts and stuff. So staying with him, that was kind of really all I knew. And it wasn't like there was tons of options to go other places. So that was really the only option that I had. So
When would you say it ultimately clicked for you? Like when would you say you started falling in love with basketball and you really started liking it?
Yeah, so those first 4 years of high school, those were rough. I didn't understand it. I was the biggest guy, so I felt like the refs weren't necessarily treating me fairly, but so it was hard for me to play. But getting to college and everyone being bigger, and then Coach Young and that Wofford team, that second year I played there, that was when everything started clicking. It was fun. We were winning. That always helps. So that was kind of when I started to love the game.
Were you like ever considering not playing college? Was that always something that you wanted to do eventually? Or like how were you in terms of like wanting to play basketball past college? Was that ever something you wanted to do during high school?
Um, Not really the first 2 years, but then once I started getting offers, then I realized that was like a pathway. But I didn't really think about it. I mean, the coaches told me in high school that like this could be an option, but until like the offers started coming in, then I realized that it was a possibility.
So take us to that very first day. I know it's always a big day for anyone to get the college paid for, have a college start wanting to recruit you. So what was that day like? Just take us through what that day was like when you got your very first Division One offer.
Um, well, at first that it was a little like I thought it was like a prank call or something because I forget who it was. I don't know. I hadn't really heard of the school, and so I had to look it up. But definitely, I was just kind of shocked and kind of happy that I got the first one, and I was excited to be able to keep playing that summer to see if I could get more.
So walk us through your overall upperclassman years. As a junior, you get all conference in the state. You also get about double averaging, 14 points a game, 12 rebounds. Take us to that junior season for you.
So I think that was the year we went to the state finals. That year we had a lot of good players. So I was kind of just able to do that role I did at Wofford, just kind of the role guy who played super hard. But yeah, we did not lose a lot of games that year, maybe 5 or something like that. So we were pretty good. And I mean, thinking about that run we had, it still was kind of hard to come up that short.
Now, when you go into this recruiting process, you have a lot of offers on the table. Schools like UTEP, UMBC, Howard's in the mix for you, Stony Brook, obviously Wofford as well. So walk us through that, and as ultimately, what kind of led you to Wofford, and why'd you choose them over everyone else?
Well, that was the first visit I had set up. So I met Coach Young, and I met his family and the team, and my family got to meet all of them. So it was definitely the family atmosphere. My mom loved Young's wife and Coach Young, and so it was that kind of bond that drew me. And then obviously the basketball side of it and academics, but I think just the family atmosphere is what drew me and my family to choose them.
If you remember back, like, was there a second option for you? Like, was there another school you really did like?
I think I took unofficial to Loyola, Maryland too. So maybe they were the next option.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stony Brook was in there too. Probably those two.
Now, what was Coach Young's pitch to you? Like when you're just looking at him, he sees you as a guy just only been playing now for about 4 years, kind of a developmental guy. You can come in and play pretty good minutes your freshman year. But what was his pitch to you? Like, what did he expect from you coming into this program, and what do you kind of want from you?
Well, actually, we had planned to redshirt me. So, like that first year, I'd redshirt and get my body right and all that. But I got there and started practicing, and they told me that that wasn't what they thought, and that I could help us win games now. So, I was a little nervous about that because I was kind of okay to be able to redshirt and just get a year of experience. But I mean, it went pretty well, and I played a decent amount for being a freshman. So
Let's get into that freshman year because, as you said, you weren't even supposed to necessarily play that season. Originally, was a redshirt plan for you. You overall end up playing just about every game that year. You even get 3 starts too. But kind of walk us through your first year of college basketball at Wofford.
It was pretty chaotic. I think I didn't play a whole bunch, but when I got in, I just ran myself ragged and was exhausted. And I had to, at Wofford, we did this thing where you like throw up a fist if you're tired. And I think I was throwing that up for the brief 3 minutes I was in there because I was going so hard. But we played a lot of big teams. That was the year we beat UNC. And so that was kind of crazy for me because I mean, some of the names on that team, that was kind of like a stepping point for me starting to really like it because obviously who doesn't love winning? So, yeah, that was a pretty crazy year.
When we look at your overall journey, this is what's kind of crazy because you kind of look at yourself. You said you even want to redshirt originally. You just play a limited role as a freshman. And now you're heading this upcoming season. You're going to be, like I said, all ACC first team selection, possibly even the ACC favorite to win player of the year. And that's only like a 4-year span now. So how crazy is looking at that? Like seeing where you come from being that to being a guy just got made all ACC second team, went through a draft process. Like how crazy is it looking at that?
I mean, it's definitely crazy. Me and Coach Young and Coach Goodner, we kind of laugh about it because, I mean, I definitely did not expect this. I mean, putting in the hard work, it's good to see like the fruits of your labor. So, but no, definitely did not think this was going to happen when I started playing basketball my freshman year of high school. So
that season, you had a couple of different guys on that team that were great college players, one of which is Fletcher McGee. We obviously know what he was capable of, had an incredible Wofford career. How big was he for you? Just kind of having a veteran in that locker room that's done it and an all-time great college type player. How big was he for you during that first 2 years, kind of being able to learn from a guy like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was one of the most he worked the hardest I've ever seen out of anyone. I mean, he was always in the gym shooting before and after practice, and that's what I try and do. Obviously, I don't do what he does, but just trying to simulate his hard work and try and get a little bit of that. So
then you head into your sophomore year and you have a pretty significant jump. You pretty much become a full-time starter, 34 out of 35 games. You also increase your numbers a lot, 7.7 rebounds a game. What led to that transition? Like what led to you jumping from your freshman year to sophomore? Like what led to that growth for you?
I think just Coach Young kind of giving me that confidence that, you know, I can affect games. And my freshman year, I kind of played a decent amount of crunch time minutes. Like I didn't play the whole game, but I played like crunch time minutes a decent amount. So just kind of seeing that and realizing that I did help the team win and just try and get my confidence up.
You had a few different big games there, one of which is in the tournament. You guys end up making that, and you have 7 points, 11 rebounds against Kentucky, and we know how special they are. So just take us to that, though. You're in the tournament. You get to go up against a team like Kentucky, and you have that performance. Walk us through that and how you prepared for that.
Well, I mean, we had played a decent amount of big name teams, so it wasn't like we were nervous. And I think at that point, every team is going to leave it all out there. So I don't think we were nervous. I think we were excited to play a team like Kentucky. That game, I still, not as much recently, but I used to watch the highlights to that game because it just would haunt me. Like some of the calls. I know I'm not supposed to talk about refs, but yeah, that game was brutal looking back. But yeah, that game was, I probably could have had a double-double. But yeah, that was a good, because they were such a big team. That was a good game for me to see how I matched up against a big team like that.
Now, you also have a lot of the big-time games throughout that season, but like you said, Ultimate Wofford did that year as you guys became a mid-major type school, a low-major type school that became a national powerhouse. So you guys made a special run for a couple of years there, and that was led by, obviously, Fletcher McGee. You came on big. Storm was a solid player. Like, you guys had a lot of good pieces. So what was that like? You guys are not necessarily in a conference where there's too many teams that compete at your guys' level. What was like being like kind of that underdog that pretty much the whole country was rooting for?
Well, it was definitely that was kind of the year that changed my perception about basketball because, I mean, we were just so dominant and, I mean, kind of being that Cinderella team. I know we didn't necessarily do what a Cinderella would do, but, I mean, the atmospheres of that game, that those two games in the tournament were definitely crazy, and hopefully we can get back there and I can experience that with this team too.
So what was your favorite game that sophomore year? Like I said, there's a few different big games you had, but what was your favorite game of your sophomore season?
That's the Seton Hall game was a pretty crazy game. I think when we blew out UNCG for our senior night, I think that was the one game I didn't start that year. So that was fun for those guys to be able to do that and beat those guys.
So we go to Coach Young again. He obviously has now been your coach every year of college basketball so far. How big of a role has he had in your life? Like, kind of, he's been the guy, like you said, is trying to change your whole perception of this game. It's turned it from just going to college to be a college basketball player using scholarships to now kind of falling in love with this game, having it become something that could become a professional career for you down the road. Like, how big of a role has he had in your life?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely owe him a lot. I mean, he gave me my chance, and he's given me the confidence to go out there and help the team win games. So I definitely owe him a lot, and I mean, I look up to him, and he the thing that I like is he can be a good guy, but he also can like get on me and push me to be better. So that's the part that I like. So.
What's the differences between it? Like, how is he on the court compared to off the court with you guys?
Well, off the court, I mean, he just walking down the street with the team, he seems to know everyone and everyone knows him. He's just a great guy, and he'll stop and talk to people for 10 minutes. And I think on the court, we also see the maybe not harsher, but the more intense and strict side, I guess. So, and that's kind of the side that I like because that pushes me to be better. So
what's the biggest thing coach has taught you? Like, is there one lesson, one thing that he's taught you that you'd say stands out above every other thing he's taught you so far?
The biggest lesson is probably just moving on to the next play. So, like, if I turn the ball over, if I mess up, just moving on to the next play and not dwelling on that. And yeah.
After the season, Coach Young clearly earned the job. He gets the opportunity to go out to Virginia Tech then, and that kind of leaves you in an interesting position because obviously it's the coach that you've grown to love the past couple of years now. He moves on. So take us through that adjusting for you. Like, what kind of went through your mind? Were you considering staying at Wofford? What pushed you to the portal? And just take us through that whole offseason, what ultimately brought you to Virginia Tech.
Well, I think there was a lot of drama that kind of happened, but at first I didn't really know that like it was even an option for me to go with him. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure how I found that out, but once I kind of heard that, I mean, that it seemed like a pretty simple decision. That's not really something that you pass up on. The opportunity to go play in the ACC with the same coach who who recruited you. I don't see a lot of people passing that up.
So when you do enter that transfer portal, I believe a few different big other programs reached out to you. Arkansas was in the mix, Nevada, VCU, Houston. So walk us through that process. Like, were any of the other programs someone that you were seriously considering? Did you really like any of the other teams? Or was Virginia Tech just really far above everyone else?
Well, yeah, I think Virginia Tech was far above everyone else, but I think VCU was in there, trying to get a little bit closer to home because Wofford was like 9.5. So Virginia Tech and VCU were definitely closer.
Now you go through that season and you also have to redshirt in that very first year, something that you guys don't have to do anymore. But how big was that for you? Because statistically, and you just look at yourself, you went from 7-7 at a mid-major type school to now all ACC second team averaging 15-8 your next season you play. So how big was that redshirt year for you? Like, how much did that help develop you? How much did you grow from that? Like, just how big was that season for you?
I mean, I think that was everything. That was kind of the first time I had really got in the gym consistently and worked on my game. And I mean, Coach Giltner and Coach Webby. Those were kind of the two guys who pushed me every day to get in there before practice and after practice. So I think just doing that and just really focusing in on it made me the player I am.
There's a lot of guys that obviously are in big favor of the whole transfer rule. I like it a lot. I think it's big time for a lot of different guys. But at the same time, like you say, this obviously was huge for your development. That's the same thing for a lot of guys too. So what's your thoughts on it? Like, had the rule not been in place where you don't have to sit out redshirt year, do you think you would have played that first season? And if so, like, how much different would that have affected you?
Well, I don't know if I'd be shooting threes the way that I do now. I think Coach Young had to see me do that for a whole year before he let me go out in the game and do that. But yeah, I don't know if they pursued me playing. I think they wanted me to develop and work on my body and do the little things. So yeah, I don't know where I'd be. Probably doing similar things, averaging, I don't know, probably similar numbers.
So are you in favor of that rule? Like, I know some guys have said that maybe if you're an underclassman, they think that it's best for guys to be able to kind of develop one more year, but what's your thoughts on the whole transfer? Like, do you think it's best for college players to go play right away? Is it better for guys to sit out a year? Like, what's your thoughts on the new rule?
Well, I think for guys like me, obviously sitting out can definitely help. I mean, it can change your game completely. But I mean, if a player thinks that he's ready to go try and play and compete for minutes, then I think he should be able to do that.
Now, where was Coach Young's kind of trust in you before you guys started the season? Because we see now what you came out and just did this past year. But did he think you were going to have this sort of breakout season prior to the year getting going? Or where did you guys both think you were going to be able to produce for this team this past season?
I think there's been like a few interviews I've seen of Coach Young, and he did not expect this. So I don't think either of us did. I think somebody asked me before the season what I thought I would average, and I said like 10-10 or something around there, like not a ton of scoring. But I think that Coach Young saw how hard I worked, and he has the trust in me. So
before the season gets going, though, the whole world obviously dealt with the pandemic, COVID. How much did that change you? Because obviously it kind of pretty much locks you at home, no team workout, just pretty much by yourself for the whole summer. What did you kind of grow in? How did you develop over the COVID pandemic? And just how did you handle that? Like, how did you handle the pandemic throughout last offseason?
Well, when that happened, I was kind of nervous because I mean, I'd sat out the whole year and like I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to play. And I mean, that would have just been pretty hard to sit out and then have to sit out a whole nother year. But I mean, I kind of stayed around Blacksburg too. So like I was still in the gym and I was still doing little things. So, but yeah, definitely nervous and definitely kind of crazy times. I'm glad that things are getting more normal now.
In terms of the COVID effects on you guys throughout the duration of the season, how much that affects you? Like, how did you handle dealing with the COVID pandemic throughout the year?
Well, I actually got COVID like before the season started, so I didn't have to test, and I was kind of like exempt from stuff. So it didn't affect me as bad as other people. Like we were testing like 6 a.m. like 4 days a week for the people who like for the other people. So I mean that was people were getting pretty tired of that. I'm not sure how that'll be this year, but yeah, I think that it was definitely crazy times, and I hope things get more normal.
Well, you head into that season then, and as you said, coach didn't really expect you to become this type of player. You didn't necessarily see you becoming this dominant. So how did this all come to be? Like, what led to you taking your game to now becoming one of the best players in the entire ACC and debatably in the entire country? Like, what led to that huge jump for you?
I just think the hard work in that off season, but also my team just trusts me, so I'm able to go out there and just try to do everything I can to win. And because I mean, at the end of the day, that's obviously what I care about more than stats and all the other stuff.
So you're going through this course of the year. You have a 30-10 game against Pitt. You have a 29-point game. You get more double doubles here and there, 25+ point games. Walk us through game by game. Like, are you surprising yourself as you're doing these type of performances? Is this kind of becoming kind of accustomed to you? Like, how are you handling now becoming this type of level player throughout the duration of the year?
I think maybe after the first two games, I wasn't like super shocked because I mean the first game I had 18 or something, but then after the Villanova game, I kind of realized how good we were, and I was confident in what I was able to do. So I mean, after those two games, it wasn't super shocking. I was confident, and I knew what I was able to do.
The thing that comes with being a player playing at your level is that people really start zoning in on you. You become the focal point of the defense. People start keying in on you. You kind of get that target in your back now. So how did you handle that part?
Just with the coaches in practice, they gave me different looks and just trying to get used to what different teams will do and how they'll scout for me. But at the end of the day, just being confident and making the right play, not trying to do too much. I think those are some things that I'll always keep and just try to make the right play.
You guys really formed just a team that really came together. As we saw, you guys become a tournament roster. A lot of guys that really just clicked together between Justine, Naheem, Tyrese, obviously a huge part of that group. How did you guys all develop chemistry throughout the year? Because you guys had the pandemic really affected that stuff. So what was like just coming together and really forming the kind of team you guys put together last year?
I mean, they were all great guys, and at the end of the day, the most important thing to everyone was winning. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go out and try and get mine. It was like making the right play and making the right read and things like that. And so I think that's just what we'll try and roll over. We got some new guys, but I think they're the same type of dudes. So I'm definitely excited for this next year.
You guys end up going to the bubble last year, and that's something that a lot of guys seem to have the same answer for in terms of how much they liked or didn't like it. But what were your thoughts on that? Like, how much did you enjoy or not enjoy the bubble?
It was kind of weird. We got there and like we didn't touch a ball for like 2 days, I think. I mean, the biggest game of our life, like we're about to go play, and we weren't able to like be in the gym and stuff. It was kind of weird. And then even like when we were practicing and stuff, we couldn't like see each other. It was like practice, go to the room, eat in the room, things like that. So it was definitely kind of weird. Hopefully next year it'll be more normal and we can get kind of back to what it was like before.
At the end of the day, you make the tournament, you make a bracket, which a lot of guys dream up looking at. Obviously, everyone knows what a bracket is kind of growing up. For you to step on that court, though, note the whole world's watching you right now. You're actually in March Madness. What was that game like? What was it just like being on that court playing that game?
I mean, it was definitely exciting to be a part of the whole bracket and NCAA. That to me, the first time I did it was pretty crazy and exciting. I hope that I can help some of these guys on the team now experience that. So with all the fans, not like it was last year. So
You end up making the All-ACC second team. How did you learn about that award, and just what was going through your mind when you found that out?
I forget when I found out. I think I found out like the next day or something, but I think I was more focused on like the rest of the year. I wasn't too like excited or anything. I just wanted to keep winning games and try and play as long as possible. But looking back at it, definitely proud of that, and hopefully I can go out and try and get the same thing or do better next year.
So following the season, then you do decide to go enter your name into the NBA draft process and declare for it. And you obviously get some feedback to decide, as we know, you to come back. But just take that decision, like why you decided to go enter the draft, and just what would you ultimately learn from the process?
Well, Coach Young was kind of the one who recommended to put my name in, and keeping my eligibility was really important to me because, I mean, I wanted to keep that option open too. But it was good to be able to go there and play against some other guys who were in the same situation, and see what that atmosphere was like. But I mean, I wasn't all over the draft boards and stuff. Obviously, it's everyone's goal to want to go play in the NBA, but I think going about it in the right way and making smart decisions is what everyone should do.
So what did you learn from it? Like, what was some of the things that either coaches, NBA coaches, GMs, like what did you ultimately learn or take away from your process?
I definitely, the first game, there was only 2 games, which I thought there was going to be a few more games than that, but there was only 2. So you kind of just have to go out there and leave it all out there and don't hold back. But being able to see like that type of atmosphere, I'll be ready for next year, and hopefully I can do better than this year.
So what do you want to improve on now? You have a whole nother season upcoming now before, obviously, you can go through the process again if you choose to. So what do you want to improve on? What do you need to work on so that you can become an NBA player eventually?
Well, first, I think my body and diet and the little things. But overall, I think being consistent. I mean, the season kind of had highs and lows, and I think just playing more consistent and trying to be better on defense too. That's kind of why Coach Young brought me here. It's kind of funny that like he brought me here for defense, and that's something that I'll need to work on this next year. So.
Well, let's go back into Coach Young a little bit. And you've obviously now had an entire 4-year career with him, including your redshirt season. So what would you say like the funniest memory you've had with him? Like, is there one moment that stands out the most to you?
I forget what away game it was my sophomore year at Wofford, but we did like he got all the bigs, and we did like a 3-point contest, and that was super fun. He was like laughing and making fun of all of us. So off the top of my head, that's probably the funniest moment. I don't know. There's probably another one, but I can't think of it.
So you head now into what could be your final year of college basketball. Obviously, you still have your eligibility year extra because last year didn't count if you choose to utilize that. But this season, you guys are going to go in one of the favorites in the ACC this year. So you look at this upcoming season, a couple of different guys decided to move on. Probably the most notable one is Tyrese a couple of weeks ago. But yes, bringing out a lot of other big-time pieces from Sean, Lynn, Storm's probably the biggest one for you guys at guard. But how's this roster looking? Just how excited are you for this team?
I mean, I'm really excited. I think everyone is. I think I mentioned it earlier. We have a lot of good pieces, and really everyone can help us win. So practices will definitely be competitive. And I mean, having so many different guys and guarding different people, it's going to help everyone get better. So I'm excited for this next year.
From what you've seen so far, is there a guy that's coming back from last year or someone else that you really seen is taking a huge jump that's going to be a really big piece of this team that some people might not really expect to have a breakout year?
Well, I think everyone's gotten really better. I think Justin, I think Naheem, I think Hunter's gotten better too. Even Big John, I think it'll be interesting that everyone's made jumps and worked on their game. So,
how about for yourself now? We know that, like I said, could very well be ACC preseason player of the year. You're going to probably be on the first team because you're the only guy returning from the first and second from last year. But how are you preparing for this year, and what can people expect from you this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just working on trying to be more consistent and getting my body in better shape so I can play harder for longer. So probably those two things are the main thing for me.
No doubt. A couple of things before I let you go. One of which is you also have been able to recently graduate. Walk us through that though for you. Like you finally made it. Obviously, you're still going to go through college and going for another season at least. But just to finally graduate, know you've accomplished that. What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm in an internship right now, and once I finish that, then it'll be like official. But definitely excited. Feels like the weight's kind of been lifted off a little bit. Um, I'm glad that I'll be able to either get my master's or do something else this next year. So that it'll be exciting.
Absolutely. Well, something I was like wrapping up discussing is building a legacy for yourself. I know all guys ultimately want to be remembered for something. So when you are done playing basketball someday, what do you ultimately want to be remembered for what you achieved both on and off the court?
Um, I think I want to be remembered for winning a lot of games. um, I don't know, definitely winning, but I think also just trying to do whatever I can to win. I mean, I've gone from being the guy who doesn't take a lot of shots and just rebounds and defends to a guy who takes more of the shots. So just a guy who will do whatever it takes to win.
In terms of your stories, we just kind of gone through you were a guy that didn't play basketball until high school, underranked. You're not really ranked at all. You don't have too many offers. You go to Wofford, pretty solid role, but eventually now you become the player you are today. So what's your advice to guys? Like you look at your entire story, what's your advice to guys that are going through a similar situation or some form of your type of situation?
Work hard and don't wait until your junior year of college to start doing that. Start younger and it'll pay off.
I know you're also a believer, so take us through your faith a little bit. Like, how has God helped get you to the point you're at today?
Yeah, well, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be here without him.
Mhm.
More in the past 2 years, I'd kind of gotten closer with him. After the redshirt year, I was definitely struggling. It was hard um, me to not play and just kind of be maybe not. Growing helped me stay strong and keep the faith.
When would you say you started forming that bond with God? Like, was there a certain point that you'd say you kind of started trusting in God and really form that one-on-one relationship with Him?
Well, I grew up in church. I think the first time I asked him into my heart, I was like, I don't know, 5 or something. Um, but I think my sophomore year of high school, I went to this camp called Word of Life in New York, and that was seeing other kids like me who believed in God and were passionate about it. That was good for me to see that.
And your platform's only going to continue to grow. Obviously, you're going to get a higher and higher platform next year. And then when you get to the pro level, it's going to grow more there. So how do you look to spread God's word? Like, how do you look to become a guy that can go out in the world and be his light and kind of shine God's light in the world?
Um, it's a good question. I think being more vocal. The coaches are always telling me to like be a better leader, and I think that kind of goes along with like being more vocal about God too. So I think just speaking out more about that, I can help be the light.
Absolutely, man. Well, my final thing for you, give Virginia Tech fans your three biggest goals you have set for your upcoming season.
Well, I don't know if I have too many personal.
Mhm.
Um, Definitely win the ACC, win a lot of games. Um, I don't know. I think when teams start off the year, they all have the same goal. They want to win their league. They want to win the tournament. Um, those are probably the main goals.
Absolutely, man. Well, definitely appreciate you taking time to come on today. I'm excited to see what God got next for you, and best luck this upcoming season, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Yep.